You guys, we have got to talk about Timothée Chalamet because the ballet and opera situation has gotten so much bigger over the weekend and it is not dying down at all. Like, I thought maybe this would blow over in a day, but no. Don't came out to call him out, the Royal Ballet and Opera released a statement, Whoopi Goldberg weighed in on The View, and now people are betting against him winning the Oscar. It has been a whole entire weekend of Timothée taking hits, and we need to get into all of it. So just to catch everyone up really quickly, because I talked about this in my last video, Timothée was in an interview with Matthew McConaughey for Variety and said he doesn't want to be working in ballet or opera, things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive even though no one cares about this anymore. And he kind of caught himself and said, all respect to the ballet and opera people out there, I just lost 14 cents in viewership. I just took shots for no reason. And the internet did not forget those 14 cents. Because that line specifically, that little joke about losing 14 cents, read to a lot of people as him saying the ballet and opera community is so small that losing them as viewers would cost him basically nothing. And when you look at it that way, it does land a lot differently than just the original comment. Like, the original comment you could argue was taken out of context. The 14 cents joke is a lot harder to defend. And Dote was not letting it slide. She came out this weekend and went fully in on him. She talked about how opera is 400 years old and ballet is 500 years old, and then she said, and I love this, somebody named Timothée Chalamet had the nerve to say on camera that nobody cares about it. And she was talking about how you can walk into an opera theater right now and every single seat will be filled, and nobody is saying a word because the audience has that much respect for the art form. And she went on to talk about dancers specifically and how they show up at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., they bleed, they break, they dedicate everything to this because they love it. And an industry having a tough time doesn't mean people don't care about it. She pointed out that his industry has a tough time too, and that doesn't mean nobody cares about film. And honestly, she made every single point that needed to be made perfectly. And then she ended it with, you show up in a nice outfit, you sit down and shut up. That's the usual etiquette around those things. Maybe learn something from that. And I mean, what else is there to say after that? Don't said what she said. And it wasn't just Dote. The Royal Ballet and Opera put out an actual statement talking about how ballet and opera have never existed in isolation, that they've informed and inspired and elevated art forms across theater, film, music, and fashion for centuries, and that millions of people around the world continue to engage with them, which is a really measured and dignified response, honestly. Like, they didn't come out swinging, they just laid out the facts and let that speak for itself. Very ballet of them. And then American opera singer Isabel Leonard commented on Variety's post of the clip and said she was honestly shocked that someone so seemingly successful could be so narrow-minded in his views about art while considering himself an artist. And she said taking cheap shots at fellow artists says more about his character than anything else in that interview, and that you don't have to like all art, but only a weak person feels the need to diminish it. And people were really responding to that comment because it cut right to the core of what bothered people about the whole thing. And then Whoopi got on The View and brought up the dance family angle again, which I talked about in my last video. Like, his mom and grandma are dance teachers, his sister dances, he has a dance background. And Whoopi said, when you crap on somebody else's art form, it doesn't feel good. And she said he probably didn't realize it until he said it, and then he compounded it with the 14 cents comment. And then she said, when people get mad, it'll be a lot more than 14 cents. Be careful. Be careful, boy. And the way she said, be careful, boy, that was everything. But here is what makes this whole situation even more interesting and kind of hard to defend. People have been going back through old interviews, and it turns out this is not a new thing for Timothée at all. Like, this is genuinely a recurring bit he does. He went on Graham Norton in 2019 and said he was scared when he was younger that movies might be becoming like opera, like an outdated art form. And then at a screening for The King that same year, he said he was worried film might become like opera or ballet, like a dying art form. So this is something he has been saying for years years and years across multiple interviews, which on one hand, you could say, well, this is clearly just a comparison he reaches for when talking about the film industry, and he doesn't actually mean it as a direct dig at those communities. But on the other hand, at some point, if you keep saying the same thing and people keep reacting badly to it, maybe just stop saying it. Like, retire the analogy. Find a different way to make your point that doesn't involve calling two 400 to 500-year-old art forms essentially irrelevant. And people online were reacting to these old clips with things like, what is his obsession with ballet and opera? Did he have a situationship with someone in one of these industries? Why does he feel so strongly about this? Which, okay, that last one made me laugh. But the point stands that this has now been revealed as a pattern and not just a one-off comment, and that changes the conversation a little bit. Now, the big question everyone was asking over the weekend was, does this hurt his Oscar chances? And here's the thing, and I want to be really clear about this because I've seen some takes online that I disagree with. Oscar voting closed the night that all of this started going viral. So whoever wins on Sunday, it will not be because of this situation. If Michael B. Jordan wins, and by the way, Michael B. Jordan has now overtaken Timothée on prediction markets. Like, Timothée was projected to win by around 80%. And that has dropped significantly over the weekend. But if Michael B. Jordan wins, it is not because Timothée offended the ballet community. It is because he earned it and the votes were already in. And same goes for Timothée. If he wins, nobody can say the scandal cost him anything because the voting was already closed. I just want that to be said clearly because I know those takes are going to be everywhere after Sunday. But what I will say is that this whole weekend of coverage and call-outs and statements is not a great look for Timothée's general public image going into Oscar night. Like, even if it doesn't affect the vote, the conversation around him right now is not the one he would have chosen. He wanted to be campaigning on the strength of his performance in Marty Supreme, and instead he's out here posting on social media this weekend trying to act unbothered, while Dote is out here calling him Timothée Chalamet on camera. And I will say, I think the ballet and opera community has made their point very loudly, very clearly, and very effectively. And I genuinely do not think Timothée Chalamet will be using that particular analogy ever again in his life. Like, I think those communities have made absolutely certain that he understands they are very much alive, very much respected, and very much capable of making a lot more noise than 14 cents worth. I want to know what you guys think about everything that's been said this weekend. Do you think this has been blown out of proportion? Or do you think the backlash is completely warranted? And are you guys watching the Oscars on Sunday? Because at this point, it is genuinely unpredictable. And I kind of love that. Let me know everything in the comments. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys!